Hello guys, welcome to JHook, and in today's session we are going to see how we can dockerize an Springboot application. And in today's demo we are going to cover creating a first Springboot application, then creating a Docker file, then pushing it to the hub.docker.com, and the fourth and the last one is creating a Docker Compose for our Springboot application. Okay, moving to the step number one where we need to create our Springboot application. So first of all we need to head over to Springboot Initializer. So we need to open this URL, and the project we are going to use is the Gradle project. So select the Gradle project over here. Then you need to mention group, artifact and name. Okay, before we fill in this detail, I would like to mention this is the guide which we are going to follow throughout this demo. And if you want to know any command or instruction, then you can go back and check this guide. I'll put the link of this guide into the description section. All right, so if in this guide in the step number one, you will find the group name, but group name you can take whatever you want. It will be a package name. So for the example, I'm keeping it as a com jhook.demo. The artifact, this is the project name. So I'm going to keep jhook docker demo. And packaging would be jar. Yeah, we need a jar file, and the Java version which we are going to use is 11. The second thing here is the screenshot for the same. And the second thing we need, we are going to implement a microservice. So for that we need a Spring Web dependency. So just click on add, and here you should find here, this is a Spring Web, or else you can just type in here also Spring Web and you can find it. Once you fill in all this information, then just click on generate and just save the file somewhere on your hard disk. Okay, moving further, as you can see, I have downloaded this zip file from our Springboot initializer. So I need to extract it. And after extracting it, you need to have IDE on your system. In my case, I am using IntelliJ, but it should work with Eclipse also or NetBeans also. So it's just based on your choice which IDE you are using. Okay, so I have now opened the IntelliJ, and here you can head over to File, go to New, and select the option Project from Existing Sources. And here in the downloads, you will find the project which we have downloaded from Springboot Initializer. So just select that project, click OK. And then you need to select this Gradle option over here because we are using our Spring Boot as a Gradle project. And then click Finish. And new window, I would prefer. And it will take some time to download all the required dependencies because we are using Spring Web dependency into our project. So it might take some time to start it up. Okay, so as you can see, build is successful. So that means we have downloaded all the required dependency, and it happens for the first time when you are starting with a new project. Okay, so here on the left hand side, you can see this project, and these are the details which we have filled in, like the JHook Docker demo, and the source. Here you will find the package name, which we have kept while creating this project on Spring Boot Initializer, and this is our main class for our Spring Boot application. Okay, and on the right hand side, there should be a Gradle task because this is our Gradle project and it should be there once you open it into our IntelliJ. Okay, let's head over to our guide, and in the guide we need to create our first microservice. Before that, here I have created one screenshot, and here I have explained the project structure, which is similar as you can see into the IntelliJ. Okay, so the next thing into the guide, we need to create a controller where we are going to define our hello microservice. So first of all, let's copy the name of the class, and I'll move this IntelliJ on the left hand side, and guide will be on the right hand side. So here I'm going to create a class, and I'm going to keep the class name same as mentioned in the guide. And the next thing, we are going to copy this code of hello microservice into our class and import this get mapping. All right, so now we have created our first hello microservice into our Spring Boot application. Okay, let's head back to our guide, and the next thing which we need to do is we need to build our project. So that is a Gradle build, and for that, head over to your terminal and just copy this command over here, copy and paste it, and that should build your Gradle project. If you're not very fan of terminal or command line, then in the IntelliJ there is an option of task and the build. So you can pretty much run this build task. It is as similar as this command. So that will also build your whole Spring Boot project. Okay, as you can see, the build is successful. That means our Spring Boot project has been built successfully and there is no compilation error. The next thing which I would say, we need to check the build module, and in the build module there should be a lib, and in that lib there will be a jar file which is a Spring Boot jar file which has been generated, and it has been generated because we built this as a Gradle project. If it's a Maven, then we would have run the Maven build. But since we are using Gradle, so that's why we run this Gradle build and we got a Spring Boot jar. Okay, so the next thing we need to test this Spring Boot jar, and for that we need to run this jar application or Spring Boot application. And for that, I'll clear this first of all, this terminal over here. And what I would recommend is we need to go into this directory libs. So there is an option over here, open in terminal. So here you can see the path. So we are like a Docker demo, build and libs directory. And here you can see this is the jar file which we have generated using the Gradle task. All right, to test this Spring Boot application or to run this jar, what we need to do is we need to run the command java followed by the dash jar and the complete jar file. Okay, and then hit enter. As you can see, it started Spring Boot Docker application in 6 seconds. So that means our Spring Boot application has started successfully. The next task which we need to do is we need to access this microservice. To test this microservice, head over to browser, and in the browser you need to enter the URL localhost 8080 and followed by hello, because that is the REST endpoint which we have defined over here. And once you hit enter, then you can see the message hello Docker. So this is what it is returning, and this is the same message which we have defined in our Spring Boot controller. Okay, so after testing our Spring Boot application, let's head back to our guide, and the next step would be to create a very basic Docker image or our first Docker image. And for that you need to create a Docker file, and the content of the Docker file should look like this. So these are the 4 lines which will help us to create a Docker file. And this is very simplistic Docker file which I have kept because it's easy to understand. And just to give you a little brief, there are 4 components into it. We are using OpenJDK 8 image. Second, we are looking for the build/lib directory. So that means this build and this lib directory, and inside we are looking for is the jar file. So that means this jar file. Here we have put a star, which means any jar file inside the lib directory will be picked up. Okay, and after picking that particular jar file, we are going to copy into our Docker container with the name app.jar. So this jar file will be renamed. This long jhook docker demo snapshot.jar will be renamed, and it will be renamed to app.jar, and this is the entry point. So what does this mean by the entry point? So this is nothing but the same java -jar command which we have run it. So here in the terminal, so this is the command java-jar. So this is the entry point where Docker is going to run this command. So this is java-jar, and since we have renamed it, so this is an app.jar. Okay, so where to create the Docker file? So I'll just minimize all this thing and create on this root folder or the root project directory. Go to new and create a file, and the file name should be Dockerfile. That's it. You don't need to put any extension or anything else. Hit enter. And after that, you are going to paste this content into the Docker file. And that's it. Okay, so after creating this Docker file, we want to run our Spring Boot application using this Docker. So what we need to do is, first of all, we need to stop our application which we are running with the terminal. I'll maximize this IntelliJ so that it will be easy to see. I'll clear it. And we need to go to the directory where our root project is. So I will get out of here, and I should see a Docker file. Yeah, here I can see the Docker file. Okay, I'll clear the screen, and it would be better if I increase the area here. Okay, so now we have the Docker file over here. So what we need to do is we need to build it. So Docker build, and we need to tag this image. So let's say Spring Boot hello. This is the image we are going to tag, and then we need to put a dot. That is mandatory. As you can see, there are 4 steps which is involved, which I explained in the Docker file. So now we have successfully built our image. Okay, so next thing we need to check our image has built or not. So for that you can run the command docker image list. And here you can see this is the image which we have built very recently, about a minute ago. So the name is Spring Boot Hello, and this is the same image name which we kept while running the docker build command. So that means our image has been built successfully. Okay, so the next thing we need to run the docker image, and for that I'll copy this command. There is a readme file. I'll commit this file also into the GitHub repo. So you need to copy this command. That is a simple docker run. Follow along with the /t. /t is for running it in a daemon mode, and then the image name. So I'll paste this command over here, and as you can see, it started our docker image or the docker container with the docker container ID this. So now we need to check our Spring Boot microservice, and for that, first of all, we need to log in into our container. And for that, this is the command which I'm going to use, followed with the container ID. So I'll copy this container ID, I'll paste it over here, and then sh. And this is the same command which you can see in the readme file, but only thing you need to keep in mind, you need to replace the container ID. Okay, so after that, hit enter. And as you can see this hash, that means we are into our Docker container. All right, so the thing is, we have created our Hello World service, and it's running on port 8080, and we can access it using curl localhost, and the port should be running on 8080 and followed by hello. So here you can see this is the same return which we have got, that is hello docker. That means our Spring Boot container with the hello world microservice is up and running, and we are getting the proper response. Okay, now we can exit it from here. Okay, so till now we have completed step number 2 from our guide, where we have created a Docker file and we have tested the Spring Boot microservice by running the Docker container. The next step would be to upload the same Spring Boot Docker image to the hub.docker.com. And this step is very basic principle when we are working with the cloud services. So just in case if you are using AWS, then you need to upload the similar Docker container images to any cloud registry or AWS cloud registry for containers. And if you are using Google Cloud Platform, then you are going to upload it to the Google Container Registry. That stands for GCR. So where you are going to upload it. But the principle is pretty common. So first thing which you need to do is you need to create an account on a hub.docker.com. So I can show you how I have created. So this is my hub.docker.com, and this is my account, and here I have created some repositories for uploading my Spring Boot Docker images. So I have previously uploaded all these images, and this is like 3 days ago. So this is how we are going to do. That is our final aim. Now I am assuming you have created your account on hub.docker.com, and after creating an account, what you need to do is you need to create a repository. So I'm assuming you have created some kind of a repository. So I have, for example, created a repository that is jhook docker demo, so which you can see over here. And this, if it is your first time, then this section will be pretty much empty for you. So I would recommend you to create one repository on hub.docker.com. And once you create this repository, it should look something similar. Okay, so the step number second, after creating an account and after creating a repository on hub.docker, we need to tag the Docker image. And how to do that? So first of all, be careful. What we need to do is we need to keep the same repository name. And once you click on this repository, then you can find we need to tag with this name, the repository name, or you can see over here also. So you can copy it. But anyway, I have created this, written this command over here, so I can pretty much copy it. But just be careful, you need to tag your image with this name. Head over to terminal, I'll clear it and I'll paste it over here. And that is going to tag our existing Docker container with this name. Okay, so I'll clear it. I'll maximize the screen a bit and Docker image list. And here you can see this is the image name we have tagged. Previously we have built this image and now we are using the same image and tagging it with a different name. Okay, so let's get back to our guide, and these are some console output which we saw over here. So there's nothing much into it. Okay, the next thing after tagging the image, we need to tag it with the full repository name, and that you can do is docker tag followed by the jhook docker demo, the current image name, which is this one, and then the complete repository name. And this repository name is coming from here, as you can see over here. This is the complete name. Okay, so what I would say is just copy this command. So just be careful when you're doing with your own repository name. So be careful with the names and the repository name with which you are going to tag. All right, I'll clear it here in the terminal. I'll paste the command and hit enter. Okay, so now we have tagged with this our repository name, which is available on our Docker Hub. Now we need to verify whether we have tagged it properly or not. So for that, you can run the command docker image list. And here you can see this is the new image we have tagged. So first of all, we have created this image with our very simple Docker file. Then after we have tagged this image with this name, and after that we have tagged using our actual hub repository name. All right. Okay, let's head back to our guide, and in the next step we are going to push this image to the Docker Hub. So we are going to use docker push and then the image name. Okay, so since we have already built this image, as you can see over here, this name and this name is pretty much similar. So we are going to copy this command for pushing it to the Docker Hub. So I'll copy it and I'll clear the screen over here. Sorry. I'll maximize it a bit and I'll paste the docker push command. And here you can see it's just preparing and it will just push all our Docker image, and it's basically uploading it to the hub.docker.com. All right, so as you can see, our Docker image has been pushed, and these are the log messages which I have got after pushing it to the Docker Hub successfully. Now we will go to Docker Hub and verify our image. Okay, so previously when I have uploaded, so it was 3 days ago, so I'll refresh the page. And here you can see a few seconds ago. So that means our Docker image has been pushed to Docker Hub successfully. Okay, so this is how you are going to create your Docker container, and you're going to finally push that Docker container image into the Docker Hub. So these are the very basic step which is required, and this will be pretty common with any cloud service provider, whether it's AWS or it's a Google Cloud. Okay, so here are the same instruction which I have mentioned in the guide. So this is the screenshot from the Docker Hub which I have taken from here. So you can just refer it for your reference. The next thing which we will talk about is the Docker Compose build and Docker Compose update. This is one more feature which comes along with the Docker and which is very useful when you are working with the production applications. And yeah, let's see it. Okay, so what is Docker Compose and why we need it? So these are very basic question which comes into my mind where I'm using the Docker Compose for the first time. So the things are which I have mentioned in the guide, the benefits which we'll get from using Docker Compose is like you can run more than one container using the Docker Compose. So what does it mean? So when we have created a Docker file, so during that time we were not able to run more than one container. We were able to run only one container at a time. But with the Docker Compose, you can pretty much run more than one container at a time. So that's the most advantage which we get from the Docker Compose. And apart from that, you can define the volume also, the volume location where other container can share the same image or the same image data if it is required. Okay, that's something little advanced, but let's see how we can create a Docker Compose. Okay, so in this guide, I have created one Docker Compose YML. One more thing, you need to install Docker Compose on your system because once you install Docker, Docker Compose doesn't come along with it. So you need to install Docker Compose separately on your system. And I'm using Ubuntu, so I have used this command to install it my system, and it is already installed, so I'm not going to install it. But if you're using Mac or Windows, then I would recommend you to follow this installation guide and get it installed on your system. Okay, so again, it is very similar the way we have created a Docker file like this one. So you need to go over here, go to new and then create a file. But here you can see I have already created this Docker Compose file, and this file should reside along with the Docker file. Why? I'll explain it. So once you see this file, so first of all, you need to refer to the Docker file, the existing one. That's why you need to keep both the file at the same location. All right, the version we are going to use is 3 because this is the most supported version of a Docker Compose along with the Docker. Otherwise, you will get some weird issue. As you can see over here, version in the Docker Compose file is invalid. So I was trying to use it with a 1 and I got this issue. But now I have changed it to 3. And third thing which you need to be careful is the service name. So this is the service name which we are going to refer every time whenever we are going to run the Docker Compose command. So this service name you should keep in mind. Fourth, you need to be watchful about the image name. So this is the image name on with which we are going to tag it. And fifth one is the port, which is 8080. So on container, it will be running on 8080 and we are going to expose it on our local system using port number 8080. And this is the final one, the volume. And this volume is little advanced topic, I would say, for this point of time, because this is the location where other container can use this image. But anyway, I will leave it right now for this for further more sessions and new sessions. But let's go ahead and build this file. Okay, so I'll clear the screen, and the command is very simple: docker compose and build. Okay, so as you can see, we have built our Docker using Docker Compose. Let's see the image which we have built. So Docker image list, and it should be somewhere here. Okay, so here you can see this is the image name which we have tagged. So I'll go back to my guide, and here you can see this is the image name which we have kept it. Okay, so yeah, this Docker Compose is building our image and tagging it with this name. So we started with this using the Dockerfile, then we used this tagging for pushing it to the Docker Hub, and then we are creating one more image with this name because we are using Docker Compose. So here we are progressing step by step. All right, so I have explained all this thing to you now. And the next thing which we need to do is we need to run it. This is the Docker Compose build command. If you forget, then this you can find it in the guide. The next thing which we need to do is we need to start the container, and how we can do it using the same Docker Compose followed by up/d. D means daemon, so it will run in the background. So I'll copy this command, go back to terminal, and I'll paste it over here. Okay, so here you can see it has started our container, and you can view the status. So docker ps a, and here you can see all the status of our container. So for the current one which we are using, docker springboot docker compose, so this is the container which we have started using this command, and it is created 13 seconds ago. Yeah, we have done it very recently, and it is running on the container port 8080, and it is accessible on 8080 on our local host. So that means our container is up and running. Okay, all the things you can find in the guide also, the docker psa command also, and docker compose.yml, which we have already seen now, and these are the status. So here you can see our container is up and running. Now we need to test our Spring Boot REST endpoint. So for that, again, we are going to curl, and as I have told, it is exposed on port 8080, and that is running on localhost because we have done the port forward. So container port is 8080, but it is accessible on a local host on port 8080. All right. So I'll copy this command and head back to terminal. I'll clear this and I'll paste it over here. And here you can see now our hello world microservice is accessible. So now we have used Docker Compose to spin up our Docker container, and we deployed Spring Boot application inside it, and now we are able to access it. So this is how we use the Docker Compose, and this is a very basic example which I have covered in this session. There is one more concept which is called as Replica Set, which can be used for running more than one container using the same Docker image, and how to do that. So for that, what you need to do is, since you are going to run more than one container, so you will need more than one ports. So previously, if you remember, in this file, we were using only single port. So this is container port and this is localhost port. So this will not suffice because once you will spin more than one container, then it will require one more port. So for that, we need to define a port range at 100. So here I have defined some port range. So whenever you're going to spin one more image, then it is going to pick it from here. Okay, and since you know, I'll clear the screen. Docker psa. This is the container which we have started previously. So first of all, let's stop this container and docker stop. The container ID is this. I'll copy it and paste it over here. Okay, so now I have stopped the container, and now we want to start more than one container using the same image. So what you need to do is docker. First of all, you need to build it. So docker compose build. Okay, now we have built it. Let's head back to our guide, and what we can do is we need to run the command docker compose scale and the same image name equals 2. So that means we are going to create a two container, or we are going to spin two container for this image, and the command is docker compose scale and the image name followed with the number of counts. I'll copy it and I'll paste it over here. And here, as you can see, we have created two container, or we have spin the two container, 1 and 2. And I'll clear the screen. Docker psa to check the status. So here you can see there are two container which are running, 1 and 2, and which are running on port 8081, 8082, and both are accessible on port 8080. Okay, I hope you liked today's session on getting started with the Docker and Docker Compose with the Spring Boot application. And if you are interested in something similar content, then please go back and follow my channel, which is JHook, and where I keep on publishing the similar content on Kubernetes, Docker, or Helm chart. So if you haven't checked this channel, then please go back and check. And also, if you would like to subscribe, and also put down your comments or issue or error which you have got during when you are following this session. And have a nice day, and see you into the next one. Bye bye.